It doesn't make a difference. Yeah. Oh, and
It's going to be.
Yep.
he had. He just. I think I have some more things here. He said he could give it to you guys. I get it. I get it.
Recording in progress. Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Recording in progress? All right, we're good to go. From closed session, we had no action taken, direction given. Vice Mayor Smith, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Sir. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Next item is adoption of the agenda.
We have a couple corrections on there I'd like to quickly note before it's adopted.
Okay.
We had a couple issues with MuniCode on Friday that we've discovered over the weekend. If you look at the agenda on the regular business items, it goes from 6 to 7 to 9. For some reason, it skipped 8, so we'll correct that to make sure it actually goes sequentially and there's not a missing agenda item. And then on number 4, the action requested on the agenda states approve MOU and authorize the mayor to sign, where actually on the staff report it didn't transition over, but for that item we're approving the amending of the funding allocation. The MOU's already been done, it's just a change to the funding allocation.
Okay.
Any questions on either of those? All right. Thank you.
Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for adoption of the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda with correction.
I'll second.
Our electronic voting working?
It is not working today, sir. I
Oh,
will need
okay.
to manually call
All
the
right.
roll.
If I may, we did receive the part on Friday, I believe. We didn't feel like testing it today, though.
Okay.
So it
All
will
right.
be hopefully operating correctly next meeting.
Okay, so for on this item, I will call the roll. Councilmember Johnstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Riggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson? Yes. Councilmember Goodson?
Yes.
Councilmember Weber?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Pittman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item we have is public communications, hearing of non-agenda items. Also, just for all of you that may have an agenda item, we also will ask for that at the end of the meeting if you didn't remember to make your non-agenda item comments at the beginning. So, do we have any cards?
I do have one blue speaker card from Bill Spear.
Okay. Mr. Spear.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, verse in prayer. Verse.
Thank you. Verse for this evening is 1 John 1:7. But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another. And the blood of Jesus, his son, purifies us from all sin. Father, we thank you for today, the gift of life, the gift of salvation. Thank you for the light. And as we walk in the light today, Lord, we pray that you would shine on us, Lord, that you would forgive us and lift us up and bless our city. Bless your church. Bless all your servants. Bless our city council. Thank you for our mayor and the vice mayor and all the council members. Thank you for their faithful service as they put our city first, and we pray for that supernatural wisdom that you would give them to be able to navigate, make the right choices. We pray for their families, for their health and their finances. In every area, we pray for an overflowing. And all the city staff. We pray for our police chief and for all the police, the fire department, all the firefighters, all the first responders. We pray for all the service groups, all the events in our city that are getting ready to come up. We ask that you would continue to give us supernatural protection and supernatural provision. Continue to grow our city and prosper it. Continue to give us favor, Lord. Your word says that if we ask, we shall receive. If we seek, we will find. If we knock, the door will be open. And so we come this evening seeking, asking, and knocking. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. That's all?
That's all I have,
Thank
sir.
you. All right, presentations in honor of recognition of Gervang. Step up. Come on up here. Right here. I had the privilege of speaking at his service, and I really appreciate that. Would you all introduce yourselves, please?
Yes, my name is Yang, and I am Gerving's nephew.
Yeah, my name is Wang Tai. My is Jer brother.
My name is Sai Vang, and I'm Jerv Vang's nephew.
My name is Zhang. I'm Jerry's Vang's nephew as well.
Thank you all. This city of Oroville is a resolution in honor of the recognition of Gervang. Whereas Gervang, a beloved member of our community, passed away recently, we find Gervang was an exceptional individual who touched the lives of many through his remarkable leadership, advocacy, and community service. Whereas Gervang served as director for the Lau Family Empowerment of Stockton for many years. During his tenure, he coordinated with the Hmong community throughout the United States to raise funds and successfully build the late General Vang Pao's grand statue inside the San Joaquin or Stockton Fairgrounds. Whereas Gervang received a bachelor's and a master's degree from California State University, Chico, and prior to his work with the Lau family of Stockton, he served as coordinator for the Butte County Community Action Agency. Whereas Gervang played a significant role in coordinating with the city of Oroville and Butte County leadership teams to address various issues in the larger community of Oroville, his involvement in the greater Oroville community focused on racial issues and fostering understanding between the Hmong and the African American communities. Whereas Gervang last service for his people as director of the Lao Veterans of America, Incorporated of Oroville. In his role, he collaborated with the city of Oroville and the leadership team to secure a building for the Hmong community to use as a Hmong museum and community center. Additionally, Gervang played a vital role in obtaining all necessary legal documents to reestablish the organization's nonprofit status. He was also instrumental in the establishment of the Oroville Southside Community Center and the Oroville Riverbend Park, serving as part of the original Community Advisory Board. Whereas Gervang was not only a great leader, but he was also a dedicated educator, father, and grandfather. His impact on this community will be deeply missed, but not forgotten. The city of Oroville and community was enriched by his contributions. Mayor David Pittman. Thank you all. Mr. Ballard, would you come up? Many people told me about Mr. Ballard's participation and basically a protege of Alberta Tracy. So I think it's only appropriate that he accept this resolution in honor of Alberta Tracy, the Lady of Butte County. Whereas Alberta Tracy, aka the Lady of Butte County, a beloved member of our community, passed away recently. Alberta moved to Oroville in the early 1970s with her first husband, Russell Guyver. Together they developed Lakeside Market and the Oaks. Whereas Alberta served our community for 40 years, volunteering her time with the Butte County Historical Society, the Oroville Heritage Council, the Republican Women of Oroville, the Christian Science Church, and many more. Whereas Alberta was best known as Lady of Butte County, dressing up, singing, and portraying women from Butte County history and serving as the museum director for the Eamon Home Museum since it opened in 1981. Whereas Alberta started many local traditions as Perry Mason Days, Admissions Day at the Library, Liberty Pole on Montgomery, Olive Day at the Eamon Home, and the Polar Bear Plunge at Bedrock Park. Anybody join her in that Polar Bear Plunge?
Yes.
She was there every year. Whereas Alberta married her husband, David Tracy, with whom she moved to Paradise, California. They lost her home in the campfire, but she did not lose her sense of optimism and friendly disposition. Alberta Tracy is welcoming to all and inviting tour attendees at the Eamon home back in the kitchen for lunch, where she would help them gain connections and resources for other local projects. Whereas the community in Oroville loved Alberta Tracy, and she will be sorely missed, she certainly will not be forgotten. David Pittman, Mayor of Oroville. Danny?
I would just like to say we can't make any announcements as far officially from the Butte County Historical Society for what we're going to do to honor her, but I think it just goes to show how many people around this community she supported and made connections with, because it feels like everybody is stopping what they're doing to try and find a way to honor her. And unlike other museums, she welcomed everybody in and wanted to know what she could do to help with their community projects, because she loved this town and she was rightfully called the Lady of Butte County. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So Daniel, so who's going to take over the polar bear plunge, and where are the bloomers? She was very colorful in her red and white striped outfit and bloomers.
Well, I'm definitely not going to wear bloomers, but I will be taking over the polar bear plunge I did last year, as well as Perry Mason Days and Admissions Day and a lot of other things. We just did the Olive Festival, and that showed everyone on the board at the Historical Society it takes an army to take over what she did.
You have a big role to fulfill because, out of all the people that visited my office regularly, she's probably right there at the top one or two.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure, seeing more of you in the future.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time and effort to participate here today, and thank the Gervang family for being here. We much appreciate it. Next is council announcements and reports. Any council reports? Go ahead.
So I do have one correction regarding the planning meeting conversation that we had at the last council meeting. And in that discussion, we talked about a couple of individuals. And in my research on those that sat on the Planning Commission, I reported out that there were none, in my estimation, that were involved in the building trades. And I want to make that correction that Natalie Sheard had reached out to me and let me know, and I looked into that, and sure enough, she had been involved in the building trade. So I want to make that correction respectfully to Ms. Sheard and her service to the Planning Commission. We certainly appreciate that. And then further with that, one of my main objective or point in that was representation on the Planning Commission from that particular industry. I feel that it's very important that those that are in the trades feel supported by our planning, or at least that they have someone that understands their unique position. And so now I guess we now have two at least that understand that position. So I feel that it's still it doesn't change I think my ultimate or my end point to that to what I was seeking to achieve with that. But I do want to make that correction, and I do apologize to Ms. Sheard in making that error. Thank you.
Anyone else? I've got a couple of things I'll mention real quick. I attended the Butte County Association of Governments meeting last Thursday, and that's a group that finds money for roads, and they were really encouraged by our new participation in Physicians Field. Our Public Works Director Fred and Patrick, they were very impressed, and they're happy to see that they have connections here in Oroville to get some great road projects going. So it was a very good meeting. BCAG was very thankful for meeting the two gentlemen, and I think you learned a lot about BCAG from what I was told. It was very interesting. The other thing is, there's a SCORE meeting. We had an update on our new inflow pumping plant, and many of you I don't know what that is, but the real problem is we had a beautiful $7-8 million plant improvement, and we're sitting around waiting for computer chips to run the variable displacement pumps. And it may be more months before we can get this simple computer chips to get an $8 million project moving. So it's one of the difficulties we're all having in getting pieces and parts. Go ahead.
I think this is something that you should mention because our mayor was very instrumental in sending a letter to the mayor of the city of Maui. So thank you so much. Appreciate that. And if you wanted to, expound on that, we were just very grateful of your consideration and concern for the tragic thing that had occurred there.
Yeah, appreciate that. Normally when we do a moment of silence, we just do it here, but it's been my thinking that we should send a letter to those that receive the moment of silence. And we sent a letter to the mayor, and then he actually read it at the incident briefing and was very impressed, and some of our people from Oroville were actually there. We go, wait a minute.
We
Mayor
did
of Oroville? Thank you. That was nice. Appreciate that. Administration reports.
No, I do have one more.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
apologize.
No, that's all right. We don't have our queue going here.
So, yeah, no, and last week, you just kind of, just sharing struck a chord. So last week, James Gallagher hosted a rally down at the state capitol supporting businesses. And there's a particular Assembly Bill 553 that's going through committee that will have real, I think, dampening impacts on small business. It's really kind of an anti-small business bill, at least many feel that way. But not to get into all of the particulars of that particular Assembly Bill 553, you can look it up and come to your own conclusions about its impact. But what really caught my attention was there were many, many small business folks from up and down the state, and the stories that you continue to hear. And one particular reoccurring theme that I heard on multiple occasions was this sense of our hands are tied. And what I really appreciated about our Assemblyman Gallagher is that is to unleash or to help cities and to help us in really kind of undoing or preventing laws that have impact on business when it comes to crime in particular. And I know there's a lot of focus on that right now. And I think people are sick and tired of being sick and tired about hearing excuses. But there is some truth. There are laws on the books that do make it challenging for our law enforcement. At the same time, that's not an excuse. So I'm somewhat optimistic. Appreciate his hard work and his willingness to take these issues on. But again, there were many hundreds of small businesses represented there. And so we're not in this alone. There's a lot of frustration, and there's a lot of pressure to bring change. You know, in particular, San Francisco has been in the news a lot, and there are small businesses leaving like crazy just because of the impacts of crime. And so we'll stay tuned, and hopefully we'll have greater collaboration with our Assemblyman's office on how we can help Oroville and the rest of our state. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Administration reports?
Just excuse me, just a couple quick updates from my desk. You'll be expecting, and this is kind of piggybacks with what you were referring to with BCAG. We've had a number of very productive meetings with their team, and I'm very excited about. They are very, to your point, thrilled to be working with Oroville at this point in time, and they are very optimistic about being able to assist us in the future. So that was very positive. But one thing we did piggyback on a conversation with regards to the Highway 162 project. So we're going to be bringing an update to your council next meeting. So it'll be on September 19th, I believe. And just an update from the Caltrans perspective component as well as the city's component. So we'll be giving you a briefing on the progress being made with regards to that. And then also I just wanted to brief the entire council. We've had 2 meetings now. The second one was today on the direction that was given to review the city charter. So we're making some progress on that, and we'll continue to make progress until we get through it. So that's all I have. I know, Ron, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm going to update you guys. It's been a while since I updated you on code enforcement. I want to go over a couple reports and some other stuff we've been working on. So our numbers for June, at the beginning of June, we had 498 active cases. 323 of these cases were fire-safe properties as a result of our fire inspections. We closed 125 cases and opened up 413 new cases. We abated 22 hazardous vehicles off the roadway and private property. We opened up 24 cases regarding building code violations in the city. 2 cases on multifamily nuisances. 40 cases on public nuisances, and 2 cases on substandard housing where houses were red tagged due to substandard conditions. July, we had a total of 233 active cases. We closed 354. A lot of those cases were the fire safe property. We got a lot of compliance out of individuals getting their fire breaks put in and trimming trees and keeping their grass under 4 inches. And we opened up 76 new cases, which is kind of a typical month. We abated 17 vehicles off of the roadway or private property. We opened up 12 cases for building code violations. And the building code violations, a lot of these are stop work notices where individuals didn't get permits prior to construction. 6 multifamily cases, 42 public nuisance cases, and 2 substandard housing cases. I will give you August's report in our next council meeting. We just finished it today. And I'll also be, next council meeting, probably through correspondence, I'll be providing you the fiscal report for 22-23 for code enforcement. It's about 55 pages long, so it's quite a bit to read. An update on March, I was tasked with updating the policies for the city through Lexipol. We have made it through, Brian Ring and Liz Einstrom is helping me through that. These are weekly meetings and meetings within the week away from Lexipol. It's a daunting process, but we've made it through all of the policies. We have reviewed all of our existing policies and see how they fit in the new policy manual. And as a result of that, we've also found a lot of procedures that were out there that'll be in a supplemental manual. So we have a meeting tomorrow. We should be able to get through the supplemental manual, then it'll go to legal. Once that's cleared, then it'll go to council for approval. City Works has been busy getting ready for the Salmon Festival. They've been weed eating, trimming vegetation along the levee, doing a lot of trash abatement daily from individuals that litter along the bike trail, abating graffiti, and getting rid of a lot of the loose rocks and stuff on the trails that lead down into the bike trail. The railroad, we opened up multiple code enforcement cases regarding railroad properties from Washington clear to Georgia Pacific. So Washington Avenue, as the railroad traverses through Georgia Pacific. They are working on the last property now, so when you're out driving around and you're on Kittrick or Baldwin, Grant Avenue, just check out those areas. They've done a wonderful job of getting rid of all the grass, all of the trash, raising all of the trees, getting rid of some of the vegetation that wasn't necessary.
Good.
And that's it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone? Oh, question here.
Ron, are there any property warrants pending right now?
We have 3 in the hopper. So I can't disclose the properties,
Absolutely,
but we have 3.
but we do have 3. Thank you. There was a time when we didn't have any.
Yeah.
So appreciate what you do.
All right. Oh, Amy's got one over there.
Thank you, Mayor Pittman. As most of you know, it was announced last week that the City of Oroville's project Mission Esperanza was not funded with the 22 ERF 2R funding that we applied for in July. I just wanted to let the public know about that. We were disappointed. We were hoping that we would get an additional $1.7 million to expand the project. We do have one more opportunity at the end of the year to apply, and we do intend on applying, but we're not, realistically, we can't count on it based on what we've seen happen so far with the state. So the largest adjustment in this project is we will be going from 45 pallet shelter units to 15. And also, we'll still have 40 congregate shelter units, and we'll have 5 safe tent and 5 parking units. But I just wanted to update everybody on that.
Thank you.
I do have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Would we venture to say that it was extremely competitive?
Absolutely.
And we were running against the big dogs.
Yeah, the jurisdictions that were funded were large jurisdictions, LA, San Diego, and also large counties. And we have noticed in the trend is that they are not providing more than one so far to a single jurisdiction. So we're not expecting to get funded in that round.
Thank you.
So my question has to do with the project itself, going from 45 to 15. Obviously, that's a significant impact. Is there in there,
It was,
It was
I'm sorry,
30.
it was 30 plus 5 ADA.
okay, so I misspoke, 40. That's twice today. So in that process, are there things being done in the eventuality of having additional funding so that it'll be an easy set-in so that, you know, as the project moves along, are they doing things to prepare for additional units?
So the way that we had the contract bid and written, the contract was written with additional, with the groundwork to be done. However, we didn't budget that in. So we've only budgeted for the 15 plus the 5 ADA. However, if we do get further funding, it will be a change order that will be under the contract.
If you, we had I think the presentation was back in August? Yeah, first meeting in August, where ultimately there was three different potential scenarios. And that was when your council contributed a contribution towards the project as well. And ultimately there was a scenario A, which was with the funding that they had received so far. Scenario B was with the City of Oroville's contribution, and scenario 3 was if we were able to get additional funding in ERF round 2. And ultimately, as Amy mentioned, it will just be a change order if they can secure additional funding. But with that type of a reduction, obviously 1.7 million, it's going to be tight to keep things going and making sure obviously the infrastructure is in place for the 40 congregate, the 15 pallet shelters, and then the operational expenses that are going to be needed for the next 2.5, 3 years of operations.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on that, just clarification. So I know we didn't get the funding for the 30 plus units. However, we have the ability, should funding come in the future, we have the ability to expand that, right? So the infrastructure is still going to be able to be put in place, or we'll have to wait to put the infrastructure in for the full amount that we want? Does that make sense?
Well, it's set in place where the contract and the work is scoped for the expansion. As soon as we receive funding, then we could definitely put that in place with a change order. But without the funding, it won't, yeah.
Okay. We have the ability for expansion, though.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ruth.
Good evening. I wanted to let you know, in January, we had a really great pension update for the unfunded liability, and it was, trying to find ways to attack our new unfunded liability. Where actuarial reports came out in August, and so I thought it might be a good time to have another quick little 10-minute presentation in October, just to update you on what our new liability is, how we went from 0 to 11 million in 1 year. But so I'm scheduling that for October because they did such a great job in November, and working on a carpet RFP for City Hall. So that's exciting. I know you guys walk through here and see the condition of the carpet is pretty bad. And the last, I want to let you know I'm going on vacation. So I will be gone from the 7th to the 16th, returning to work on the 18th. So I will hopefully. You won't need anything critical, but I can always be contacted.
All right. Anyone else? Looking good. Then we'll move forward. The next item is the consent calendar. Anyone have any issues on the consent calendar? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as agenda size.
So move.
A second.
Moved and seconded. Can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Johnstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Riggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Goodson?
Yes.
Councilmember Weber?
No.
Vice Mayor Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Pittman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all. Next regular business is item number 6. Is approval of an application for the federal fund account last mile grant program by the Golden State Connect Authority and letter in support of the project. Who's going to speak on this one?
That's me, Mayor.
Okay.
Sorry. And we have someone, can you let Patrick into the meeting, please? Sorry, he goes by Pat also, so this might be confusing for everybody.
It'll just take 1 moment. He'll need to rejoin as panelist, but it's going to reroute it. So it should take about 10, 15 seconds.
Okay. I'll just go ahead and get started, though.
Go ahead.
Okay, this is this is an opportunity for the city to have fiber optic broadband infrastructure throughout the city, and it's the Golden State Connect Authority will be the lead on this. In fact, it's their project. So what this item is before you tonight is approving a letter of endorsement for them to go after a grant through the Federal Funding Authority to provide $7.5 million for them to pursue this grant. Most of the project will be funded through bond financing, and the GSCA will be handling everything. So they're going to do the bonding. They're going to apply for the grant. They're going to, if awarded the grant, they're going to hire the contractors, and they are going to install a complete fiber optic system or broadband system throughout the entire city and in some parts of the county. And this will provide broadband to every address. So in 2023, there was a study that was performed, and it determined that there's a significant portion of the city that's considered unserved or underserved. Unserved is 25 megabits per second or less than that, and underserved is less than 100 megabits per second. And then a lot of the city has no options or no choices to choose. So this fiber optic system, if they're able to install this, will allow multiple carriers to lease space on this one fiber optic network that will provide choices to everybody in the city. So there's, for us, there's no obligation. There's, if they are awarded the grant, they will go through the regular process. They'll go through encroachment permits. They'll abide by our policies for repairing streets or cutting into the streets. They're actually going to do it not by cutting in or trenching, but by boring. So they'll cut holes at each end of a street, and then they'll bore underneath it to run a conduit and then run the fiber optic line through that. And so, so what is before you tonight is just approving a letter that supports their application for a grant to hopefully make all that happen for us. And it looks like Pat's not going to make it, but I think maybe I gave you enough information. Oh, is he? Okay.
He
All
is
right.
on. It's just not showing on that screen, but
Okay.
he's on our Zoom call.
So Pat Blacklock is here to, if you have any questions further, in case I get in the weeds for what's happening with them on the back end. But high level, the gist is basically what I just laid out for you.
And if I could piggyback, it seems like it's a great opportunity there was another grant that the city was awarded a while back that assessed where areas of the city that were underserved or not served from a broadband perspective. And the goal here is to have options now throughout the entire city, which would be a significant enhancement for all our residents and businesses.
This would be really great for students, for businesses, small businesses. Everyone will benefit from this.
Yeah, I'm aware of the industrial unit number 2 has very little, if any, broadband at all, and many of our business operators down there are spending a lot of extra money to have a separate internet connection. So this is, and I remember the PUC had identified the areas in Oroville that were well underserved, mostly the commercial business retail area.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be and to me, I think it's a win-win if we can get it. So, any questions? Yes.
Thank you. I have 3 primary questions. My first is regarding how confident we feel in this application. Like, what is our level of confidence that we might get awarded, which might be better for Pat online?
I think that they feel pretty confident, and yeah, Pat can weigh on this, but I think they feel pretty confident that we have a good chance because of our the study that was performed and our level of unserved and underserved. So it'll give us some good points. I should say too that this is actually, so the county is the member of the GSCA, and so the county is sort of the lead agency here for the application, but they've just determined that areas of the county would be, this is meant to be a last mile program, so the areas of the county be more like mid-mile. So they are just going to be applying for Chico and for Oroville.
Okay. And then my next part is, if approved, what kind of timeline would they expect for implementation?
18 to 24 months.
Oh, that's rather fast. And
Oh,
then-
what? Let me take that back.
Oh, okay.
So they have to still do their bonding. They have to still do their other financing. So once all the financing is in place, it'll be an 18 to 24 month project.
Mm-hmm. Now, I am familiar with the last mile project, and a lot of that funding came from the state. but the state's now projecting a deficit. Are we expecting less monies to be available for such projects, or because of the bonding structure, same?
Well, the bonding is going to be the heavy lift, and then there's another financing. This is where I'll bring Pat in for this, but there's another financing component to this. And then the whole thing is sort of predicated on the grant happening. So if the grant doesn't happen, then the rest of it's a little bit sort of dicey. But Pat, do you want to weigh in on that at this point?
Sure, I'll just add that you're correct, Councilmember. The funding in this year's budget is less than was originally allocated. However, there is still funding for this program in the budget, and that's what the CPUC will allocate. The question is how many applications will be submitted, and will the program be overtaxed because more applications were submitted than are available funds? And we just don't know the answer to that, and we won't until the end of this month when they've received all the applications.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys working on this project, and I hope that it turns out in our favor.
Fingers crossed.
I have a question. So, in real world scenario, so I'm an underserved customer, I'm a business, I'm in downtown, my internet goes out and when it rains, and I'm with a major carrier currently, so, and that could describe half the people in this room. What is the reasonable expectation with this program? It sounds like they're going to be working with those major carriers that we all know their names, their acronyms. So then could I then expect then to be upgraded with my current carrier with that project? What does that look like in real time? And then what would my bill then look like? Would it go down? Would it go up? Would I have a fee to my bill if I say, hey, I want to jump on the train now that infrastructure is in? So real world, how does that impact me in 36 months?
I think that so it's going to be up to the carrier, because right now you probably have the option, depending on where you are, to have 100 BPS, 300 BPS, 500 Mbps. So you'll have level of services, and you can pay for that as you want to, the speeds that you want to have. So the carrier, that'll be up to the carrier. So GSCA will own the system, and they'll be leasing it to the company. So then it's completely up to the companies to how they're going to provide services. However, since now there's this opportunity for competition, the chances are that everyone will have a better opportunity for a better rate at a faster service.
Okay, looking forward to that. Because I'm suspicious, just being in the building back some time ago, that some of these carriers have been kind of holding off, allowing you to upgrade, kind of waiting for some of these programs to come through, because again, the funding. So
it provides.
I'm optimistically not going to hold my breath, but it's needed.
It provides
definitely
opportunities for the carriers to have more customers, and it might also provide a little nail biting for them too, that if they're the only ones in town at a certain spot. So
nail biting is good.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions? So on this item, do we need a vote or a consensus?
Yeah, there were
Okay.
two action items, I believe, on here. One was just the approval for the city to request to be a part of this program and obtain the funding, and also a letter of support for the program.
All right, I'd entertain a motion if there's no more questions. Unless anyone.
Make a motion.
Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to approve City Council to support the GSCA to pursue a grant from the CPUC. And what was the second?
A letter of support.
Oh, and to write a letter of support. Thank you.
I second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Johnstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Riggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Goodson?
Yes.
Councilmember Weber?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Pittman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all. Look forward to the progress on that. And I have to we had a CPUC judge here actually in this room at one time, and we were discussing this very issue. This is probably 4 or 5 years ago. And one carrier said they were going to make an obligation of $7 million of improvements to the Oroville area. I've yet to see it. And he said that in front of the CPU judge, which is very interesting. So, looking forward to improvements there. All right, item number 7, North Star Place branding contract and new Oroville branding.
All right, yes, I'll kick this off, Mr. Mayor. Just some background on this. Well, first of all, Councilmember Thompson and Councilmember Weber requested that this item be placed on the agenda. And just some background on this. Back in February of 2022, the council approved an RFP to go out for marketing services to assist the city with changing the perception externally to hopefully better attract businesses for economic development and for tourism. So that was in February 22. In June of, I believe later in April of that year that a presentation was done, and then in June 7th of 2022, a contract with North Star was brought before the council to perform those duties. North Star was retained. They did site visits, interviews, met with focus groups, put out surveys to gather information. An internal team here was developed within the city that consisted of 5 staff members as well as 2 council members to help work with the team as they went through the project. Ultimately, 635 unique points of view were presented to the team to help them with this project. Initial findings were presented to your council back on August 15th. That included a number of information. Obviously, since then, there's been a lot of other feedback that's been received, which is good. Feedback is always good. So the item was brought back tonight for additional information to see if the council wishes to add any more direction that was given. Obviously, there was direction given at the last council meeting to proceed forward with the project. There was a budget approved to implement the project, and there was a contract amendment to continue that project with North Star. I will say that in talking with North Star, it's not uncommon, obviously, for something like this to have lots of feedback pushed forward when something is initially brought forward. So that is very commonplace when such programs are developed. But I'm very interested in the conversation that we're going to have this evening, and hopefully some more public input and dialogue. I'll turn over to Councilmember Weber or Thompson.
I just have a question, only because our queue is not.
Sure.
And so, did I hear you say that the original conversation in this agenda item was actually initiated back in February 2022?
2022 is when
So it's been approximately a year and a half that we continue to have this conversation, and we've received public input over that time span. All right, thank you.
Ms. Walker, go ahead.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. So I appreciate this conversation happening, and as you all know, that I was the sole person on the council that voted no against the implementation of the logo and the tagline, and then also the further funding with North Star as well. And after that, in the following days after that, I started receiving a lot of phone calls and emails and messages and texts from folks that were not happy with the new logo or the tagline. So with that being said, I didn't think that when I voted no, I didn't think it would garner that much attention. I don't think my no vote garnered that much attention, but I think that people gravitated toward me because I was the one that voted no. So I think the logo and the poor quality garnered a lot of attention, and the tagline, which in my opinion makes no sense at all, garnered a lot of attention. So what I would like to do, and first off, I want to. I conducted a little poll on my Facebook page for my city council page, and out of there was 210 votes cast on my poll, and the poll was 4 simple questions: like the new logo, dislike the new logo, and then the tagline is "Belong Along Our Water," as you know, and the Oroville Community Development Coalition actually has a brochure that we developed. It's a community resource brochure that was made for our at-risk population, and we have 2 contributing members in our coalition that actually attributed to the narrative in it. And Linda Up the Grove, her last name is Up the Grove, she did a wonderful job, and she had originally given us a line in it that said, "In the city of gold, find your path." Well, when we redid it, Cindy Daniluk actually redid it and then wrote, "Find your path in the city of gold." So I'm not saying that has to be our tagline. I just thought, well, I'll just do a comparative analysis between the two. So out of all the votes cast, for the logo, there was 2. For dislike, there was 150. For belong along, there was 0 votes cast. And for find your path, there was 58 votes. So using that kind of as a little bit of a gauge to, feel out what the public's going to say about this, I think that's evidence that supports that this isn't going to be really well received. So I would like to do as follows: stop implementation of the logo and tagline, terminate any further business with North Star Place branding, go back to formula, get active public feedback and design suggestions, and how I would kind of like to go about this. And this is just a suggestion. I'm just one of 7 up here, but I would actually like to look at cleaning up our city seal, eliminating the small white train, raising the water levels on the river and not having large exposed banks because that's not even reflective of our river. More Table Mountain closer with our large iconic O prominently displayed, and add our beautiful green bridge in there as well. Now, and then taking from that, draw an element from that with the logo, take a piece of that and then use that in the logo. Now I love to give credit where credit's due. I was sitting in the audience when this discussion was had last year, and I actually remember Vice Mayor Smith and Council Member Thompson actually addressing that seal at that time. And I thought when they were bringing up those their concerns with that, I thought they were accurate because it doesn't quite look like what we have. We can't even see the dam from downtown. So, and let alone, why don't we have an O prominently displayed on the Table Mountain? And I understand that that's the Zephyr train, but you would never know that by looking at it because there's no distinguishable features on it at all. Furthermore, the Zephyr ran from 1949 to 1970, so that was approximately 21 years. That was 53 years ago, over half a century. And the O was dedicated June 8th, 1929, which is 94 years ago and counting. It's still here, the Zephyr's not. So to have a Zephyr train that you can't even see it's a Zephyr train in our seal makes 0 sense to me. But to have an O and a green bridge that are still here and will be here for the duration of this city, as long as this city's around, we're going to keep those 2 things. That would make much more sense in my eyes. So I say that we get community input. Now, whatever that looks like, I'm sure we're going to have some suggestions from our community, and we've got a great group of people and citizens that are extremely creative. So I say, well, let's work hard to get community participation and buy-in that will allow them to take pride in our logo. And so I say we take this back to formula, scrap the stuff that North Star did, and then we work toward getting our community involved and have a logo and a tagline that makes sense and is reflective of our heritage, our history, and have pride and ownership from our citizens. And that's all I got.
Anyone else? Oh, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely agree with Mr. Weber. He's got a lot of great ideas. Yes, in the beginning of this, just a little bit of edit as far as Mr. Ring conversation did. It's funny when I first broached the seal back when, I think it was even before the date that you talked about. My memory on dates is not as strong as our mayor, who's got a memory like a steel trap. But the transition from my heart is that we have a seal, we have a logo, something that the community at large, it's a celebration. It's something that's when you look at it, identifies our community. All the points that Councilman Weber made, 150% in agreement. I don't think necessarily we have to fully scrap our logo or our seal. I think just some small edits, just like you said. You know, right now it shows the water line halfway there. It's a lot of just brown, so either bring the trees down or the river up. Green Bridge, which is iconic, something that when you look at the city seal, you communicate, that's Oroville. It's not, what's that? So something that I've been talking to, well, first of all, I want to say after it was rolled out, after our last city council meeting, and it was posted on Facebook. I was pretty shocked and let our city administrator know my thoughts. But got a lot as well, a ton of feedback. Even though I voted yes on the project, I was vehemently against the tagline, but I wasn't so much necessarily opposed to the O, especially if it was just to be used on pamphlets, advertising material, things outside the community. But as far as inside, as far as our main logo or even Facebook page, you know, main thing, I was not too happy about that. But something that we did, you know, as I've been a part of rebranding organizations before, and there's something, it's a process that is very involved, a very inclusive involvement that I think would be really fun as a community. Although any change you make with anything, I'm not surprised that there's opposition to the change that was made. I'm surprised to the amount of opposition that I heard from a lot of people in regards to the change. But anytime you change anything, even if it's a light bulb that doesn't work, you're going to have people that, now it's too bright, you know. So you just get that with any change. But if we were to have a way of, you know, I'm glad that people came to the table even if they're upset, because I think we were trying to get some voice in from the community, and I think that maybe some people that are now at the table weren't necessarily fully engaged with the process. My voice back was some people that were really upset. I'm like, welcome to the table. I'm not sure where you were last council meeting, but I'm glad you're here now. Regardless of what was going on, we all have busy lives. But there's a process that actually is pretty inclusive that I think if we were going to look at the city seal, which was in my opinion, the impetus of part of this was just cleaning some things up, bringing a fresh look, not completely throwing away the old and bringing something new, but just doing some fine touches. There's companies that do this, and we don't have to go with a company. But when I did a redesign and new logo, there was a website that I put a price out there that I'm looking for a new logo, and then design artists put together projects. I said, I'm looking for this, and they came, and I got to work with 5 different artists, didn't pay them anything. They understood that the winner at the very end would get the kitty or whatever, and I think we have in our community a lot of amazing artists that if we were to say, hey, we're looking for, and I don't think if somebody were to bring something completely different, that it would get a lot of community support. But if we had a local contest with our local artists and said, hey, if you want to be involved with redoing something, make it just in the same way we did the redistricting, how there was a lot of community buy-in, there was a lot of community input, there was access to all that, and then at the end, obviously, the city council would have to vote on approval of one. But I think we could do something that would be similar to that, where we invite the community in, local artists, and then give the community an opportunity to make some edits or changes that would be embraced by our community. That at the end of the day, what I'm looking for, I should say, at the end of the day, is that when you look at our city seal, anybody who barely has any knowledge of the history of Oroville can look at it and be like, that's Oroville. And that was my main problem at the beginning, was because I haven't been around as long as many in Oroville, but I look at that, I call it the centipede, and I'm like, I'm not sure what that is, and now having to learn the history of the Zephyr, and yeah, it only was here for a period of time, but something iconic like the Green Bridge, a little bit of bring the water line down or up, or the trees down, just kind of cleaning it up, I think would be beautiful. I'm not, again, like I said last council meeting, I'm not opposed to the O that North Star branding did. I would just prefer it just be done on marketing stuff that isn't necessarily like front page of a Facebook page or on the side of city trucks or whatnot. So anyway, but as far as the desire of Mr. Weber to stop this and then just bring it back to the table, because especially with how much opposition that I got to what was done in the last council meeting, I'm fully on board with what he mentioned. So that's my 2 cents.
I'm not sure who was first. You go. Which one's
I
first?
haven't raised my hand.
Okay.
I just raised my hand.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Councilman Johnstone.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in full support of pulling it back and let's hear some more from the community. I am quite surprised, though, that at the onset of this rebranding process, it was put out on Facebook and on the city page, right, for community input. And the research that's showing here is that there were only 100 plus site visit conversations. There was only 130. I don't know if this is input into the brandingorville.com or if this was actual, data entered in on that. There was only 142 community survey respondents and 19 external perception calls, with 248 external consumer respondents. So, with the amount of community discussion about this now, I was quite surprised to read these numbers again and see how little response we got from the initial rebranding with the community involvement. However, being contacted by so many of the community after we had initially agreed, I am in full support of looking at it again and hearing from our community. We do have a lot of great artists. I think community involvement is very important, especially when they can take ownership of it and they can take pride in it. The feedback, I was quite surprised at the feedback, honestly. I know that we do have some great community artists that are in our community, and I'm not sure why they did not get involved from the onset of this program, but I would like to see what they have to offer before we make a final decision. Thank you.
Councilman Riggs?
Thank you. I'll respond to a few of those things. As it's been clearly stated at several points, I brought this to council after attending a conference where North Star presented along Kern County and Bakersfield, along with other communities, about how a rebranding and reorienting of a community's most marketable assets can help develop a stronger business environment, spur economic development, and create community pride. And so that was my hope in bringing this item forward, that we could replicate those things. We have, for a very long time, allowed the outside community or people who want to imagine Oroville the same way it was in the 50s to be our primary spokesperson for the city of Oroville, and that's not an accurate reflection of our community. And so that was my hope, is that by engaging in this process, we would spur those conversations that can help us better identify what our natural assets are and market those in an appropriate way. I think it's important I'm going to touch on a few things that you guys have all shared. The first, in that what was posted on Facebook was a brand element, not a logo. And an O with a squiggle through it and a tagline is a simple brand element, not an inclusive product. And so I think that there's a huge misconception about the work that North Star has done and the process that the city employees and two of us council members have went through over the past year and a half to present such a product. So an O, that's not the logo, that's a brand element. It's one piece of a marketing initiative. So I think that that's really important. And of course, somebody may not like that specific feature, but when I think about the DNA statement and the narrative created for Oroville, that's not something you guys are talking about, but I would say many of us would agree with it. So I think that it's really important to, okay, thank you for interrupting me. I think it's really important that we consider a full picture, that this project is not about a logo and it's not about a tagline, but it is about spurring economic development, attracting businesses and attracting visitors and attracting residents who want to live the quality of life that we all experience on a regular basis. So we can tear apart, and it's really easy to tear apart one glimmer of an element on Facebook. We've all seen that over the past 2 weeks, and some of us has spurred it on ourselves. But I think it's really important to look back and see that this isn't just a logo. This is about development. In addition, I would agree, 600 might not feel like a lot, but those were I took the survey, and I also participated in the interviews. Those were hour-long interviews. Those were roundtable discussions with full groups of our business community, with community leaders. They were comprehensive. And the surveys were not a 4-question survey on Facebook, but a comprehensive survey looking at actual representations of our community. And I would say that the number of respondents are actually quite good considering the depth in which it went into. So for me, I think, does the city seal need updating? Absolutely. Does our city need a brand and a cohesive message? Absolutely. And does our city need good jobs and a healthy industry? Yeah, absolutely. And I see this as a means to get there. Not that we're all going to agree with it and love it all the time, or that it's perfect and it encompasses everything that Oroville is. A marketing initiative is never going to do that. But I do think that we have a good foundation to start with. I believe, as Weber suggested, there are still rooms for improvement. There is different iterations of taglines that we could utilize in different functions. And I would rather us not waste the year and a half and the 600 inputs that we've already received and the money that we've already spent by tossing it all out, but instead say, okay, here's where we're at. We're going to approve this, and we're going to continue to develop and adjust and better it with the additional feedback and with other people who are now interested in it. But I think that starting from scratch, it would be foolish.
You had a question,
Thank you.
Janet?
I did.
Mr. Mayor, could we also hear from the public as well? I mean,
We will,
before
but yeah. Well, I'm sure there's some speaker cards.
All right, so I'm going to use the KISS theory. Keep this thing simple. So I look at the agenda item, and I just want clarification, and I'm just going to state for the record, there is a difference between a city seal and a city logo. They're both the property of the city, but they are used for 2 different purposes. So the city uses the seal to certify official city records, and the city logo is used as a graphic symbol to identify, to market, and to partner, and for sponsorships. So we have one agenda item, but it looks like we're trying to commingle 2 separate issues here. So I think, is the question, do we do that, or do we keep the 2 items separate?
Okay.
That's all.
I'm going to add my comments here because I've been very patient and pretty much, if you read the research, which this company did for us, do you know what the people in Elk Grove consider a place to go and have fun and recreation is?
Water.
59% of them said Nevada City.
Ooh.
That's what we're talking about here, folks. We're trying to sell our community, and nobody knows a thing about us. And this company went to Sacramento, went to the Bay Area, did extensive research, and found out nobody knows we're here. So we've got to get our word out there as a marketing tool. The city seals certainly should be upgraded. That's easy. That's a separate deal. The logo is an ever-changing thing because you want to market for different reasons. You might want to market for a historical district, museums, and those kind of things. You might want to market for water activities. You might want to market for downtown retail business shopping. You might want to market for restaurants and dining. So those are all marketing tools in this whole process. So when you say logo, I think Councilman Riggs has it, it's just a part of the tools to be used. The critical work here was done. We found out folks in Sacramento don't know we're here. And if we change our city seal, they still won't know we're here. That's what we have to, that's the kicker, and I think Councilman Goodson separates it very clearly. The seal, yes, it should be updated, no question. But the logo is something that's going to evolve as the market bears. I mean, I know Vice Mayor Smith has tried to market Oroville. When you go down to the Sportsman's Expo, the best flag we ever had was standing up in front of there. I worked it for a day or 2. Said, fun starts here, Oroville. That drew everybody over there. That may be one of the good suggestions to add to this process. But that logo, I've seen 10 different marketing tools from the set your sails to Oroville, and there was a sailboat. That was our logo, a sailboat. Didn't last very long, did it? Some of you can't even remember it. It was Jenna Wilson was the mayor. I remember in 1988. So the marketing tool is what we're really after here. And the bottom line is, I'm glad so many people are interested. You know, we certainly have tremendous amounts of input here. And that input should be adjusted to what they've received from the marketing from the outside area, our inside community, how we want our community market. I'm glad to see so many people responded to it. I think it's wonderful. And I would just have the committee move forward and take all that and absorb it into those elements. Now, the city seal probably is a different type. We didn't ask him to even work on the city seal. That wasn't even part of the job here. You know, and that might be a great idea for a local competition for a city seal, because that's an identifier for it. Now, when you do that, we actually have stamps that we have to change too. There's a lot of things to do, and I got no problem doing that, because the city seal is old and it's been around, and I used to ride the Zephyr to Sacramento quite often. So, but it's, you know, long gone. And so those are just my comments. And I think it's a tremendous process. It is not easy, and it should be added to, and I think all your inputs should be brought into the committee and the process, and maybe we need to have a separate committee for the city seal. That might be a thought, just a separate city seal committee, because they're two different things here. We're mixing up. Vice Mayor Smith, were you up?
I want to talk, but I want to hear from the public first.
Well, I know we're supposed to do ours first and then take the speaker
so it's not
cards.
back and forth.
You want to go to?
Why is it
Sure.
circular?
Yeah. This is what I do on my day job. And as you had mentioned, I have taken our city over the years out of Butte County, Sacramento, also for other firms in engaging the public. And just digesting some of the comments on Facebook. Sometimes we're our own worst critics, right? It's like our own family. You know, we know where, you know, our weaknesses are. And sometimes we can, you know, be harder on ourselves than others are on us. And I'd have to say that after talking to literally thousands of people representing Oroville and the Sacramento area at various shows over the years, that people have a pretty good feeling when it comes to Oroville. There are people that bring their family here for traditionally to have family reunions, a lot of houseboaters. There were whole clubs that would come up and use the diversion pool for kayaking. In on and on. There's so many different activities. You have the duck clubs, the hunting clubs, and the wildlife area. Oroville has so much to offer. I mean, we're an amazing community, and people love Oroville. You know, and sometimes it's just the optics of what you perceive or see. You know, we see some of the things that we feel that need to change, and there are things that certainly do need to be dealt with when it comes to some of the criminal elements and some of the other things that we see, the unsightly things. But let me tell you, if you get outside of Oroville and you travel down to the Bay Area and you come back to Oroville, it's like, you know, things aren't maybe quite as bad as I thought they were. And when you can, and you know, you don't want to get into comparison. That's an easy thing to do. But when others come to Oroville and they go to our lake or to our rivers or to the aquatic area, the wildlife area, you know, they have amazing experiences, as I did when I came up from the Bay Area to come up here to fish and to hunt and do all that stuff. And I just loved Oroville and all the things that it had to offer. You know, when it comes to strap lines or logos, these are campaigns, as I think Councilman Riggs is pointing out. I've run several campaigns. I have the billboards out on Highway 99, all 4 of those billboards. And what they're called call to actions, right? And so you see kids like splashing in the water, that's one of my billboards. Or there's a gal on a ski-doo, right? And it says, escape the grind, Oroville. right? And so when somebody drives by and they see that, they go, wow, hey, Margaret, let's go up to the lake next week. We'd like to do that, right? And so it's just creating this kind of this feel-good kind of sense of that there's fun, cool things to do in Oroville. And from my perspective, when that was presented back in April 19th of last year, that's what I was envisioning that North Star would bring. Now, I was somewhat critical, as I did. Yes, I did pick on the logo. I think it does need some or the city seal. That is a different discussion. And I was a little bit hard on North Star because they used Bakersfield as an example. And I said, I know Bakersfield. I lived in Bakersfield. I did. And that's not Bakersfield. And I said, so if you can do something with Bakersfield like that, then, well, maybe you can, we have so much here. I mean, it'll be an easy lift, right? Because, man, we're so much more amazing than Bakersfield. And so, you know, again, I was hopeful. But that being said, one of the points I did make was that we have a lot of amazing folks here in Oroville that do a lot of good work. Explore Butte County. You go on their website. Amazing content. And that was one of the parts I did not like about the presentation, honestly, was that, again, going back to we're harder on ourselves than I think that we should be. And because that video was presented from North Star on Bakersfield, and then, oh, where's our video? Oh, because we don't have any. And that's actually not true. The hospital, they did a whole series called Oroville Unveiled. Amazing content, wonderful, well done commercials elevating and lifting up Oroville. And one of the purposes of that, and always marketing, strap lines, logos, they always come, what's the end game? What's the goal? And so for the hospital, it's encouraging docs and nurses to come and live here in our town so that we have quality docs and nurses that think Oroville is a cool place to raise a family and have a career. I think that's great. And they did a wonderful job with that product. Again, Explore Butte County, the Downtown Business Association has created content logos and have worked with different companies to do that. And so, you know, again, why did we use a company all the way in Florida, so over 3,000 miles away? Because they were the only ones that responded to the RFP, honestly. And I was disappointed because I know, and I think that, you know, I'm kind of digesting the pushback on this particular iteration or logo. And just listening to the comments that people are making, there's just so much amazing talent here, and I think there's this feeling that we could do better. We know ourselves. I don't think that all of the research that North Star did, there's 300 pages, it's thick. I think that all has value when I'm thinking about when I'm down in Sacramento representing Oroville and I'm talking to people and engaging, trying to sell our community. And you know, there's all different kinds of things going on there. We want people to come, have an experience, leave some of their money, and go back home. That's good. We want others to come and maybe join Oroville to elevate and, you know, enhance the quality of life that we have here. That's a part of it too. So there's, you know, varying degrees of what the purpose that this project was supposed to and can and will achieve. But I don't think that it's a waste, that all that research has great value input. It helps create and craft different versions, different ideas, different approaches, different marketing schemes. It all has its, depending on, like you said, you know, what's your target audience? With this, you know, we're doing a salmon festival. Shoot, last year we had people reading our content in hotel rooms in San Francisco. You know, people are coming from, and I believe that particular event for Oroville, for example, has regional traction, kind of like the Gilroy Festival did for Gilroy. And so there's so much more that we can do. And I've heard other people say, well, we have to get all of our issues fixed, you know, the homeless fixed, the crime fixed. Well, let me tell you what, if we waited until we were perfect, we'd be waiting a long time. Because the last time I checked, there are no perfect cities, towns.
Or people.
Because there are no perfect people. She took the words right out of my mouth. But, and that's just so true. So, but I think we can walk and chew gum. I think we can continue to work on the law enforcement issues and our housing issues. And I think that we can continue to craft our story, our narrative, using the research, using that information, that data that's been collected. I think it's valuable. It's great. It's insightful. And, you know, and this is what I do in my day job, and that's partly why I have to recuse myself on item B. because when we get across the finish line with the stuff, I want to use it. I got billboards to build out there, people, on 99. I got the digital advertising. I got stuff to, I want to get things rocking and not, bogged down in the grinder here. And I was playing with different iterations of taglines. I think that's partly people just didn't dig the tagline. The O with the swoosh. I could see me using that for, a little while out there on a couple of billboards, and I'll move on to something else because that's how it works. Right. Where history shines, adventure flows, Oroville awaits. Golden Legacy, Riverfront Charm, Oroville, where adventures flow. I have like 30 of these things. I sit there, and let your mind just go crazy. And I'll use some of this stuff in building billboards and building the things that I do. And by the way, nobody ever complained about any of the stuff I did out of 99.
It was great.
It's just because you know why it's fun. You look at that and you go, wow, that looks like a real cool thing to do. But we have the clay pits and, like I said, the wildlife area, and we have a city with a river running through it. We have the diversion pool, the lake. Go on and on and on. We have so much to offer, and a lot of it, it still needs development and work, and I get that. But, let's sell what we got and worry about the rest later on, right? And going back to the other companies that I represented here, major companies, big multi-million-dollar companies here in Oroville that are very interested in having people come to Oroville. I mean, we're all in, there's a lot of stakeholders in this venture and marketing plan to communicate Oroville is an amazing place to live, to work, to recreate, to dream, to have a family, all those things. And so it's not any one thing, or we shouldn't get stuck, bogged down in this thing. I think we just need to, figure it out. Obviously, and at the same time, we want something that folks can be proud of. Generally, we're not going to have 100%. Like, wow. It's just, I'll never forget in another line of work, you'd have a handful of people looking at something. And one person would say, that's terrible. And the other person would say, man, I thought that was the most amazing thing I'd ever, you get 10 people in the room, right? You get 10 different opinions on this stuff. But if in general, folks aren't real happy with some of the pieces and elements, let's bring it back. We can tow it back. I think what we should do, just as a suggestion here, and of course there's going to be a lot more commentary, but to have a committee. You can step it back for 30 days, 60 days, reevaluate, take in, digest more of the public's comments, and then just kind of retool this thing. But we can do it all, folks. We can walk, chew gum, market, build our town, deal with crime. We can do all of that all at the same time. No problem. Easy peasy. That's how I see it.
All right, thank you. Councilman Thompson had
Thank you.
up
Yeah.
on the list.
Well, speak for yourself as far as walking and chewing gum, because I'm not sure.
You can.
I'm not let me just clarify. I'm not in favor of throwing away the research that was done.
It is valuable.
I think it's all, usable, valid stuff that, why people in and out of Oroville were questioned and asked, as far as their take on the city and whatnot, and all that's valuable. It's why we hired a company to do that instead of us deciding of 7 people, trying to get the take of people within our community and those outside of our community. So I don't think that the information that North Star gathered was a waste, and I tried to communicate that between last council meeting and today, was that, because there was some misinformation put out there that Oroville paid $70,000 for a new logo, and I'm like, that is absolutely not correct. That is misinformation.
Right.
We did not pay $70,000 for a new logo. We paid $70,000 for a company to do a lot of research from our community, and this was just one aspect. So that's what I've been telling people in regarding, because people were upset, like $70,000 for a logo, and then they said, look, this is $2. So anyway, you're going to get that. I guess my frustration with the process was from the onset, like I communicated from the onset, the first thing that I brought up personally was the city's seal. And what was communicated to me, and you can go back and watch the city council meetings, what was communicated to me is that is something that we can address in the rebranding. We can look at that and retool it. So I was expecting a city seal. As far as the process goes, as a city council member, the only involvement that was allowed to most of the council was to do the survey like any community citizen, which was fine and all. When it finally was, when it was finally presented to me in a kind of a secret reveal, I was hoping that there would be some kind of input that was allowed to be given. Although I gave lots of input, it was like in one ear and out the other. None of it. It was just thank you, and kind of we did our, checkbox. We told you what we'd done, and now we're going to continue to do what we've done. So there was no. I felt there was no feedback given as a council member into the process. It was just kind of this is what we've done. There you go. And then it was brought to city council. You heard my comments about loathing the tag. Belong along the water, and then that being echoed from our community. So that's where I guess the confusion is, because in my opinion, part of the impetus was bringing up the seal, and then receiving the O. So I'm not necessarily, and again, I'm going to communicate the exact same thing I said from last council meeting. Is I'm not opposed to the O, even though some people don't like it. In my opinion, as long as it's used for marketing material, not posted on the Facebook page as if it's our new city seal, because what was there before was the seal, and then right after council, it was offset, wasn't even centered, with the tagline now nestled, hugging up against the O as if the two are one. So I communicated to Brian, I felt like the way it was rolled out was like a slap in my face. I would like it brought back, and I think that when these type of things are rolled out, as opposed to just throwing it out there as fast as it was, there wouldn't have been, I think, such a negative reaction if we as a city had handled it a little more smoothly and rolling it out with more explanation. Even if, honestly, if the Facebook front page hadn't been changed, I don't know if there would have been the reaction that would have happened. If it was just handled and used on a billboard like it has been in years past, if it would have just been on a flyer like we talked about in the last city council, there probably would have been no kickback from the community. But when the seal on our Facebook page was replaced with a logo and a tagline, that communicated the seal was replaced. And also, to me, as a city council person, that communicated to me that the seal was replaced. So if there's, and what was told me before the process was, we will look at the seal and we'll adjust that. So I'm expecting, as a city council person, the seal to be addressed, and I got a logo. So now we're clarifying that we can, and again, I'm not opposed to using O as long as it's on a marketing material.
Right.
Maybe some billboard on 99, but on the side of a truck's Facebook page, anywhere where it identifies, us, I prefer a seal. So that's where my guttural that anger
That's where that passion
that
came
comes from, because again, I brought up the seal, I got a logo,
Right.
and I was not given, even in the private reveal, was not given any ear. Felt like it was speaking to a brick wall.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to
Go ahead.
respond to that, and that you're right. You did bring up the seal, and that we talked that it could be addressed during the rebranding process. And I just wanted to say that I apologize, because as a council member in that conversation with North Star and with staff, that never got translated, I think, to North Star, that was another expectation that we were expecting, or another expectation of their contract. So it's definitely something that I wish that I would have paid more attention to and communicated to make sure that was addressed for you. And then I also think that if we were to move forward, that there is space to add another council person who has that kind of experience and passion that you have into that committee to continue to develop what are the appropriate uses of each marketing initiative, and that balance between when is the appropriate place for the seal and when is the appropriate place for a logo or a more informal representation of our community. And then I would also say that we didn't really get to roll out the new brand. We got to post a brand element and a tagline, and then it was crammed to a halt, which then of course the community would see it as the only outcome of this $70,000 contract. And so I think that there is a lot of components that we can roll out and that would be embraced. Of course, not by everybody. We won't have 100% adoption, but I do think that, we were stifled in that process, and rightfully so. It needs to come back and make some adjustments in order to best represent our community.
Mr. Mayor, I do have.
Yep. I got Weber down there.
No, it could go.
Yeah, so since we're all being transparent. Yeah, I actually had concerns with though there were public components, there was the research, there was the website, there was once the creativity portion began, just in that industry, and again, just because I'm kind of familiar with that, it's just a tendency of that industry to kind of like, we're going to keep it all, because we're doing our most creative work, and we're engineering something that you're going to just absolutely be blown away with. And I think that was kind of what, where those that folks that work in that industry, and that was kind of the feel. I ironically came in very late. Most of all this content was already created because I wasn't even aware of some of the stuff. I came in the last couple of meetings once it was pretty much developed, but. So part of that is just the nature of the industry, and North Star, that's kind of how their optics, how they operate. And they've done this for other cities and done it quite successfully. Like I said, man, if you made Bakersfield shine, look out. Because I know all their warts. By living down there, it's like, holy smoke. And so I think there was a lot of hope and expectation, but and again, it comes back to the rollout. And I think communicating with the public and communicating with the balance of the council. I think that a better job or a different approach could have been exacted. And again, this is kind of like a boilerplate. This is how we do things. Well, Oroville's different. We're a very unique community. We're special. And one of the, I think, upsides to all this public response is that, man, we got some real creative and talented people that got just great insight and things to offer and to bring to the table, and we'll probably be hearing from some shortly in that regard. And so I think there's some wisdom in backing up, taking a pause, maybe doing an evaluation in having that discussion. It looks like the tagline is going to get flushed, no pun intended. But again, and then it's just one element. It's one piece. And I think, again, the conflation of, oh my gosh, spent all this money and that's all you have to show for it. Well, there's a whole lot behind that, a ton behind. And that's the industry. And so that's just the nature of it in general. But I certainly get the criticism. I appreciate the criticism. I think some of it's warranted. And then some of it's based on not having all the facts, and then that is incumbent upon us to be clear and to present those facts so people have an understanding of what is going on. And so we bear some responsibility. I'll take some responsibility for that. And so moving forward, I think we can get across the finish line and get a product that most everyone just, man, that's amazing. That's us. That's Oroville. I'm proud of that. And at the end of the day, that's what we want. I think we all want that, and I think we can get there.
Public comment cards? Oh, excuse me. Go ahead, Councilman Weber.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, my sincere apologies for interrupting you, Councilmember Riggs. That was rude of me, and I apologize. Okay. So I'm gonna take a different slant on this. I appreciate the data, and I think the data is fantastic. And but the bottom line is this: is that we could chop it up any way we want, but you can't reduce it down to these boiled down points and say, yeah, but it's not this and it's not that, because the general public is going to look at it and say, for 73,000, we got a stylized O and four words. Okay, there's no two ways about that. It's what the perception is going to be to it. So we could talk about the data, we could talk about the process, we could talk about till the cows come home. But at the end of the day, if the public does not receive it, the only thing they're ever going to remember is that council spent $73,000 on a stylized O and 4 words. Okay, so I want the inputs that were brought up by them. Okay, so sure, I'm just a little redneck boy that was raised in Bangor. I got a 7th grade education. And but so I'm not, I don't have any marketing experience, but I decided to do this little Facebook experiment, and I got 210 inputs in 24 hours, and it cost $0. This firm, for a portion of the $73,000, got 600 inputs in a year and a half. Okay, so, and these are real and relevant inputs from people that live in our town that are concerned with what this tagline and what this logo represent. So take that for what it's worth. Now, no matter what you say to this is a catastrophe, in my opinion. No matter how you spin it, no matter which way you talk about it, you could talk about the process, you could talk about the data, you could talk about all that till you're blue in the face, and it's just not going to matter, because what matters is what they're going to say about it. That's what matters. So we could sit up here and pontificate about the importance of all these different things and express how it's just this vitally important process that we do all these things. But at the end of the day, if they think that we bought a turd, then it's never going to change. Period. Now, on to the seal. I was merely suggesting that we take advantage of designing a cohesive strategy that would redesign an old and outdated seal. That's, in my opinion, not representative of what our city looks like anyway. And then take an element from that and then use that as a logo design element. It was just a suggestion. It didn't have anything to do with this conversation. That wasn't the driving force behind what I'm saying. It was just a suggestion, like, hey, let's look at this, maybe do that. Kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? So and seeing what sticks. Now, with that being said, we missed the mark, period. The public needed to have input. Now, going back to Councilmember Riggs' comment a minute ago about the ad hoc committee, let's not forget that the ad hoc committee was formed because Eric, Vice Mayor Smith, fleshed out that there was meetings happening without the council knowing about it, and design elements were being discussed. So then we suggested an ad hoc committee got formed, okay? And I asked to be on that ad hoc committee, and our mayor decided not to put me on it. So there would have been another voice that would have said, hey, we might want to reconsider this. And I was willing to do it and was not appointed. So since we're all being transparent here, let's be honest, okay? So that's what I have to say. I'm very eager to hear what the public says, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'll just make one quick comment too. One of the reasons that we're looking at water, when you look at the community surveys here, if you look at the data, 65.45% of those that responded of the 600 said we need to focus on our waterways, our lake, our rivers, and our bays. And that's one thing that I can say as a long-term resident, we have never advertised. We have never advertised a river or lakes or after bays. They do it on a spot basis, and State Parks does it on a spot basis because of their facilities. But the community of Oroville is not known for being a water recreation community. It just isn't. Just that simple. So let's go to any community comment cards.
Yes, sir. We'll start with Bill Spear and follow it with Julie Miller.
Thank you. Mr. Spear.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. I agree with Councilman Weber about ending the contract with North Star. It's kind of offensive that we go all the way to Florida when we do have a lot of local talent. And when I first heard about it, I was thinking, why are we getting someone from Florida to come tell us about here in Oroville? And I happen to know there's people local that do rebranding. And so I would think the smart way forward would be to take the input that they gave, the information and the data, and go on to the next phase of working with local people. Put it out there. We're going to build on top of this and get local people to, and the community to take ownership, turn this into a win, take what we got and build on it. And, you know, I've been complaining about the city seal for a long time. Calling it a centipede was an upgrade. It's a snake to me. It looks like a snake coming down into Oroville, and it does need fixed. But we do have so much potential in our city of gold, and it's good to get more input. And I'm glad that a lot of people are getting a lot more input. But it seemed like one of the biggest offenses that got a lot of people mad, and it rubbed me wrong right from the start, was why are we using, even though they're, you know, come and do these big cities, Bakersfield and this, and oh, here we are, Oroville, we got somebody just like the big cities got. But it's not, you know, especially in our economy right now being so hard for people to survive and people to make it. That's a lot of money, and that would be a big boost for a local company. And so we don't have to go all the way to Florida to get someone to remarket. We have a tremendous amount of talent, and we should try to focus our resources on local companies, on local community that's gonna help us all. In any business, getting a $70,000 infusion contract is gonna bless them. It's gonna bless their employees, and we can do the work. It's not something that we have to go all the way to Florida for, and maybe they were the only ones that responded, but I think it's gonna be different now. I think that we will have a lot more responses. I think it's out there and people are realizing what's going on and the importance of it. It is vitally important that we don't get stuck back, but we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Julie Miller.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. First of all, I just want to say, I know all of you guys love Oroville, like a ton. So I want to just thank you for your service to our community, because I know it's a really hard job sometimes. So I think the community is just frustrated because, honestly, you guys, no one likes the logo. Like, really, no one. And it's hard to get people to come here and tell you that, because you can see no one's here to tell you to your face, but all you have to do is read the public feedback on Facebook, and the logo is not cool, it's not hip, it's not fresh, it's outdated, and it's ugly. And I'm really sorry, but that's the truth. And I would love to see something awesome and amazing. I mean, the way I see it, you've got the opportunity to put something out there. Why not make it awesome? Like, why are we settling for second rate? It looks like an airline logo or a drug company. Like, this is what you would see on a prescription box. What are we doing? So that's all I want to say about it. You guys are talking about putting it on flags around town. You're talking about putting it on coasters at breweries. I'm thinking, there's no way a brewery is going to put this on a coaster, guys. Like, really, come on. So I love you guys. I think you are all amazing and awesome. Let's do better for our town, please. I appreciate the research. I'm not bashing North Star at all. I appreciate the intent. That's the other thing I wanted to say. You guys all had amazing intent with this. Like, I'm from Chico. I know Oroville's reputation, and we do need to market Oroville. I mean, we need to bring some fresh ideas and some fresh life to this town, and we're doing it. We're doing it, you guys. It's getting better. But, like, we've got the potential to do something awesome. Let's do something awesome, right? So that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you, Julie.
Ask you a question?
Sure,
Okay.
go ahead.
Thank you. Could you describe what the logo is? In your perspective at this point?
I mean, you guys, when I saw it, I was like, this is from the 90s. Why do we have a 90s thing? Like, I don't see the name Oroville, first of all. That's a problem.
Thank you.
Like,
That's what I thought.
And then the other problem is, like, it just looks old and outdated. It looks like something my my grandma would have loved 90 in 1994. Like, that's my feeling. Like, if you look at Paradises, they've got it on there. They came up with very similar to our banners downtown that you guys have put up for the DBA, like fresh, cool, like, I don't know if it's their seal or their logo, but they have it on all their city trucks up there. It's just simple and vibrant. It has color. It's got design. It's got style. I think we need to go in a more stylized, colorful, fresh design.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
All right, I just want to share that the O individually is not the logo. It's a brand element.
The brand, we need a better, Chrissy, we need a better thing. We need something.
Julie, thank you. And then also that the company was given feedback with all of those different concepts of, like, you're thinking of a more patch-like design like Paradise has, and I love that too. Placerville uses it as well. And that wasn't the direction that the company was given by staff and by 2 council members to pursue. And I think that that's definitely something that's a shift, because I prefer that style as well. That's a shift that can be made. But again, I think it goes back to this wasn't an effective rollout because what's identified as the logo is not the logo. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Up next, we have Sarah Nolan, followed by Hardy Lane.
Hello, everybody. Mr. Brian Wong is not able to join us here today. He's currently on a flight, so I'm going to be reading something that he wrote on behalf of him. So, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, City staff, and fellow Orovillians. I would like to speak on the recent passage of the new city logo and tagline. A strong logo and tagline is vitally important for the marketing of our city. Our city forefathers and mothers came to Oroville for opportunities. We came for the opportunity to strike it rich, mining gold. We came for the opportunity to work the buildings and the railroads. We came for the opportunity to build the dam. We came for the opportunity to farm the fertile Central Valley and the opportunity to find jobs in our mills. The opportunity to start a new life after leaving strife and hardship, and many other similar reasons. While our backgrounds are diverse and we come from the same promise of opportunities, our tagline should reflect our history as well as offer a promise for future generations. Since the last City Council meeting, the logo and tagline has gotten the attention of many community members. Please consider creating a new logo and tagline that reflects our rich history, vibrant cultural diversities, as well as a symbol for our future aspirations. Thank you on behalf of Mr. Brian Wong. And as simply as a personal note, as a young community member and someone who has great vested interest in this community and seeing it grow both economically, culturally, and in many different aspects, it's disappointing to see that this council did not fight harder to have a local company or local groups come in to do this. I mean, I understand that there are requirements for bids and how that process works. I do understand that. But for the city, it's disappointing to see that no one really stepped up to say, we need to reach back out again to see if we can find anybody, because Facebook found a whole bunch of them. So, and that was a very simple thing. And I just wish that the city council would have really advocated more on behalf of that and to seeing what talent we have here. Because as someone who's young, no one wants to be in this town. I don't mean to be rude. A lot of kids my age can't wait to go to college, can't wait to go anywhere else. And the few of us that stick around, we're here to see change. We're here to see tomorrow, and we're here for future aspirations. And so it's part of the deal, unfortunately. We make mistakes, and we got to learn from them. But this logo, I hope to better represent all the good things that this town has, and I would love to see nothing more than the next generations built upon this one here today. So thank you for your time and your consideration.
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
What is your name again?
My name is Sarah Noland.
Well, Sarah Nolan, I would encourage you to run for city council.
Yep, it's going to be a fat minute before I get there, but thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Sarah.
Guys.
Up next, we have Hardy Lawn, followed by Audrey Holt.
Hello. So, my name is Hardy Lan. I'm an international brand consultant. And I was a teacher for the UC Berkeley for branding and for the Art Institute of San Francisco and of the College for San Mateo. And I was a little bit surprised because now it looks like that we don't have a logo. Last 2 weeks, I heard the city council meeting, and the new logo was presented as a logo and the tagline as a tagline. So am I right that this is the logo? Because it was presented like that?
Did you hear Councilman Riggs
Yeah.
mention it's
The O on its own is a brand element. Oroville, including the stylized
Okay.
O, California, would be a better representation of what the logo would be.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So the rule number 1 for a logo is a logo needs to be different than existing logos to be legally used. Otherwise, you can't use this logo. And there we have the first problem in our conversation. So this logo, you can buy this logo for $2 on the stock market. Yeah. I would say it's like 99% the same logo. Everyone can buy this in the whole world. There's no legal rights connected to it. So if I have like a bakery in San Francisco, I can use your logo. So even if it's a part of the branding process, you can't even use it exclusively for Oroville. So normally you can't do this using this as a logo. And I want to add a little bit out of my experience. The branding process, the logo is the engine of your whole branding campaign. And the tagline, this is the horsepower of a branding process. When you look back to Apple, for example, the Apple seal is a tree with a little boy with an apple. Nobody knows that anymore. The brand logo is the one that sells a phone for $1,000 and not the seal. And I agree completely to Mr. Weber. The seal is one thing, the logo is another thing, and for a good branding process, you need an engine and you need a tagline. And I can go on and talk more about this, but I don't have the time here to really explain how a branding process is normally done. I would say if you bought a logo, even if it's a part of a branding process that you can't use, what are we doing then right now? And the same is with the tagline. I agree, we have a wonderful lake, we have a wonderful water, but if you do your research, then you see that Oroville is not a water town. When you do some research, the 9 most amazing lake towns in California are not with Oroville. The 25 best lakes in California, Oroville is not on the list. The 7 most charming river towns in California, Oroville is not on the list. The 5 most charming river towns in Northern California, Oroville is not on the list. So let me quote something that I really like. When you look on Wikipedia, that 42 million people will read every day in 24 languages. Wikipedia says about Oroville, gold was found at Bidwell Bar, one of the first gold mining sites in California, bringing thousands of prospectors to the Oroville area seeking riches. Oroville's nickname is the City of Gold. So that's my research, Wikipedia, to see what Oroville is standing for. That you use the water and the pleasure of water, that's a part of the process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Up next, we have Audrey Holt, followed by Deborah Wigley.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you for letting me speak here today. I wanted to say that I think the conversation kind of started because the city of Oroville put out a competition for a welcome sign about 2 years ago. They did have to extend that deadline. I know that with the first deadline, it was about a week away and they hadn't received any. I was working on mine. I was going to have it by the deadline, so maybe some other people were too. But we didn't get a lot of involvement from the community for that project. Sure. So then my sign actually did win, and I had used the seal in order to start designing my sign. I looked at what Oroville had for branding already. So I found the seal, I found the fun starts here, I found some various things that the chamber had done, kind of the sign that's on the chamber. And I said, okay, what am I going to use as a cohesive appearance for Oroville? And so the best thing I came up was the city seal, kind of tweak it, kind of make it more fresh, like a welcome sign. So then the conversation came up about, do we actually like the seal? We have this branding opportunity coming up. And so I thought, well, is it going to be the seal or is it going to be a logo? Because they are kind of different. Are they going to go together? Are we going to change both of them? Well, from the beginning, North Star put something on their page that said the seal was staying for official business, for stationery, for police cars, for everything like that. So I thought, okay, well then maybe my sign will, end up going through. I was just kind of watching it from that perspective. So then I was able to be part of a focus group with North Star for tourism. And it was a great focus group. I had every confidence that they were going to do a great job. They were really personable. They asked the right questions. We had the right conversation. And then it kind of fell off until after the last council meeting. It went on Facebook and everyone's talking about it and looking at it. And I personally was extremely excited about the whole branding opportunity. I've worked at a job where I also worked in branding and design, but I was extremely disappointed with the product. And I don't know if that's because it was revealed in a way that was misleading and kind of confusing. It wasn't updated with everything they had done. But like the gentleman said, it needs to be a cohesive look. I understand there's multiple parts, but the logo is the look. So if we need to see more material and kind of narrow it down to a better logo that everyone's happy with, right now it's very confusing. And I don't think people dislike it just because it's new and change. I think they actually do not care for it. So what I would like to be able to tell them is our feedback. Mr. Thompson said they weren't really receptive, and I don't think that's right. As a design organization, we are their client, and they owe us a product we are happy with. So I don't know if along the way I missed a lot of feedback from, a committee or council, but I don't know if there was any interaction where they kind of felt out, hey, is this the way we should be going? Are y'all going to like this? And now that we're kind of here, I feel like they definitely owe us that. If we're going to continue with them, if gold is where we're going, not water, they need to know, we're not happy with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Up next, we have Deborah Wigley, followed by Renee Gramps.
Good evening, Council. I want to thank you for the opportunity for the public to have some input into this. One of the things that I want to say right up front is it's great that you're being current, you're on social media, you're doing all that. I think you can look at me and see that I'm probably not on Facebook every day. Had you put out a postcard to every residence in the city limits, people like myself who have lots of marketing experience would have come forward and participated in the process. I didn't even know it was happening. And I am hugely disappointed with the product. I'm also disturbed that you would go ahead and approve a contract with a company who couldn't even enumerate the deliverables they would provide for the second year. The tagline seems to me to be exclusive of many of our residents who, frankly, some of you know me well enough to know I spent 15 years of my professional career running a youth center in Southside Oroville. And consistently, the young people who came to that center told me they had never seen bedrock. They had never seen the river. So when you advertise belong on our waterways, allow me to point out that a vast majority of our population that we want to encourage, like this young woman who just spoke, we want them to stay and bring their talent and their resources. They feel disenfranchised by belong on the river because their parents can't afford to drive them to that river, much less have a boat on the lake. So that was very offensive to me. I felt like it was a very limited perspective on our community, and I would strongly encourage you to go back to the drawing board and do a community-based process. I'm sure North Star did tons of good research, and I want to hear that. And I'm delighted to hear that people in affluent urban communities think we're a place to come and play. But I want them to come and build businesses and strengthen our economy and support our young people in maximizing their actual potential. There's so much wasted potential in this community. Please go back to the drawing board and use your local talent. If we are unique, people from Florida can't possibly reflect who we are in a way that touches our hearts and makes us belong, much less make people from somewhere else belong. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Renee Gramps.
Hi, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I kind of wasn't really anticipating being here tonight, so I didn't even know that we were going to be discussing what we're discussing. I just wanted to chime in my 2 cents on this. I'm here to talk about something else, but I guess I have a couple of questions, and so I might be all over the place because my thoughts are all over, but I do remember being young. I grew up in Southside, then moved to Thermalito, and then the mountains. I mean, I've been all over the place, and so I remember the feeling of when I was younger, oh, I can't wait to get out of this town. But the more and more that I visited other places around this country, the more and more I fell in love with this town. So I'm now of the age, and I have been for many years because I decided to open a business here, and you know, I love this town, and so that's just my 2 cents on that. As far as this I've never even seen the actually, when he just turned it around, that was the first time I saw that design element or whatever we're calling it. But I guess my question was, and it kind of ties in a little bit to what Tracy was saying, was that, you know, she was surprised that only a certain amount of people were, you know, interacting with it. Personally, I'm spending less and less time on Facebook these days. It's just, you know, I don't know, it's just not worth my time. So I was wondering if there was any other avenues that were being put into place as far as trying to reach the public to get them involved in this. And maybe one I guess, idea would be a texting platform, possibly, because there you could easily just send out a link, then people could click the link to then interact if they want to, if they don't. And obviously they just sign up for these texting links. And you know, if it's one of those that they have to get involved. So there's many companies that provide that. I was just trying to think of other ways besides, you know, social media, if there are any sort of representations at local events, you know, like, hey, this is what we're thinking about, you know, come get involved and have people vote personally at, you know, our downtown, whatever, you know. So anyways, those are just a couple ideas. Again, I don't really have 2 cents on any of the brand stuff, but wanted to just give some ideas on that. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, that's the last submitted card I have.
Okay. Well, we've heard a lot of input.
Yeah. Parking lot and then revisit it with the ad hoc committee. That's what I would recommend.
I think that's not a bad idea. I would ask Mr. Weber, would you serve on the ad hoc committee?
Yes, I would like to.
And why don't we
Are
ask
you waiting for
the ad hoc committee to come back in 60 days with a different product? Is that reachable?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
So, yeah, that's what I was going to recommend. And then also all taking in all the public input
Oh,
as
certainly.
well, you know,
In
certainly.
fact,
So-
maybe the ad hoc committee can discuss a few different public ways to input with the contractor. Go from there.
And we can I say something?
Sure.
We can hold the community's feet over the fire that if they don't get involved, then what they get is what we got.
And I just want to add, I think that something like where there's a lot of passion and frustration, and some people, you know, obviously are, you know, feel angry about this. But I think at the end of the day, this is a win. Because, you know, anytime that you see something that, you know, strikes you a certain way in a negative, but there's always an opportunity to do better.
Right.
That means that, you know, obviously there's a good sense that this is a mediocre product that's been delivered. And so now we're going to go from mediocre right to amazing as we get all this input. So I think, again, we can turn this into a real win, and then also have further conversation about, you know, what is the DNA of Oroville, and you know, what are our expectations? And then how can we do better in serving our community and the disenfranchised and all of those things. And I think so out of this, I think if we keep our head on straight, you know, go completely sideways, I think that out of this, then we can kind of, you know, really cook it down and really have something that we're proud of and to move forward in a real positive, constructive way. So I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I do have some billboards to build. So, but I won't use belong along our water. So
Thank you.
I promise.
Go ahead, Councilman Weber.
Yeah, you know, I just wanted to point out to the public and anybody that's listening that, you know, we get along very well on this dais, and you know, sometimes it takes some sparks and a little bit of friction to create some, you know, some heat, and out of that heat could come a birthing opportunity for some really great things. So I know that we're passionate about these things. And to Julie Miller's point, we all love the city, and I know without a shadow of a doubt that we all want the best for this city.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm confident that we can come up with some stuff that's going to be great. So I will say that when we come back, let's make it a point to keep the community apprised as to what we're doing, give them feedback, and let's go from there, because I think it's going to be vitally important for their input and their buy-in for this.
Right.
If I can say something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my just request with the ad hoc committee is that, or maybe not just the ad hoc committee, but those who spoke tonight who have experience with branding and art and whatnot, that if there's a way for the committee and those entities in our community to connect, so that there's that working together. So I'm not sure how that's to happen. Maybe if they're to contact you guys here, or they're to go through our city administrator, but to have, if there was even a separate meeting for people, who are, I don't know, brand focused, and the committee to fight this thing out, and maybe have some ideas that are presented from our community. I do want to say two other things, by the way. I would have loved to have a local company, but as a city council, we put things out to bid all the time, and we can only hope that locals, bid on the project, but you can't, you can't make them. You make an opportunity for them, but it doesn't mean they're going to. And to the wonderful young lady who can't wait to move out of Oroville, I've been around a couple of different cities, and you hear that from. Doesn't matter if they're in a big city, small city. I've been in many cities, and no matter where the youth grow up, they say, "I can't wait to get out of this city." That's just
there's nothing to do here.
That's just part of the process. But the reality is, it's good as you get young. You need to get out and explore the world, and then when you do, you realize, wow, this is pretty amazing. So, I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy this process is moving forward. I do think that at the end of this, our community, I hope at the end of this, our community will be more knit tight. The message of the beauty and the wonder of Oroville will be more clearly communicated. And I just know our city will continue to move forward. We have really bright days ahead of us. So I'm looking forward to this process to move forward and see a better product.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Councilman.
Is part of that direction to separate